Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nails and Beauty Talk. I am your host, Asia the Birds. I have a very special guest with us today. She's a graphic designer and an illustrator. Please welcome Cleonique Hilsaca. Hello, Cleonique. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
You are most welcome. So I want to go ahead and get started with this interview by asking where you're originally from and how did you get started into the realm of art?
So I'm from Tegucigalpa, Honduras. I came to the United States about 10 years ago. I went to SCAD, to the Savannah College of Art and Design to study illustration, graphic design, and painting. But I switched from painting to graphic design about halfway through my career because I wanted more opportunities in jobs in general and also to diversify my portfolio as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And then,
that's really cool. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I started my career almost immediately after SCAD. I worked as a freelance illustrator on my own time, but my graphic design minor allowed me to have a lot of opportunities when it came to work. So I actually had a internship at a licensing company called Wild Apple right after school. And then I had a job opportunity waiting for me when I came back from Vermont for genealogy, working as a t-shirt designer. I worked there for 2 years, and that's where I started as soon as I graduated.
Okay, that's really, really cool. Now, who are like your favorite artists?
Ooh, I like a lot of artists. Some of my favorite artists right now are Rebecca Green, Amélie Flechet, um, Heikala, a lot of artists working for children's illustration because that is my focus right now. So I'm trying to look at artists who create the type of work that I want to create myself. So those are some. So I'm more focused a little bit more on picture book artists at the moment. John Klassen as well, um, and Matthew Forsyth. So.
Nice. Really, really cool. Yeah, there's a lot of like cool illustrators and artists like Nate Williams. Like he does like these cool, like, fun illustrations. He does like surface design illustrations. Another artist I got inspired by was like Kirby Rosanes, and he's from the Philippines. And I knew him like since he was on like DeviantArt. Like he'll post like his stuff on DeviantArt. And like his stuff had like it was like black and white, but he had like so much stuff going on. That's what I liked about his work. Another artist I really liked was Alex Conahan. He's another illustrator and he does like these cool bugs, not just like any type of like, it was like regular bugs, but it's like bugs that are like very, very like, they look like jewelry. So he's like into like filigree style, so he'll take his own spin like on a bug, like and make it like a filigree, shiny jewelry style type of art. I think that's really, really cool. So like, I want to get into your art style. So how can you describe your art style?
So the type of work that I've been creating in recent years has been more geared towards very bright, very round, very bright colors, very round characters. I changed my focus from when I started doing freelance illustration, I started more towards editorial illustration and advertising, but in recent years, I've tried to focus my work in picture book making. So my work has gotten more friendly, more child friendly. So a lot of very expressive characters. But I also wanted to bring in a little bit of my own culture and my own home. So I wanted to include like Mayan inspirations. I've done a series of Mayan gods, but I also want to include a bit in my work of just Latin American culture and how and the way our houses look, the type of animals that we have, like donkeys and piggies and just farmland and mountains and jungle. So I've it's hard sometimes because I have a lot of influence from uh like anime and Studio
Right.
Ghibli more recently. So it's hard to try to put all of the things I want together, but I'm trying to, and it's a struggle every time to try to incorporate myself, my culture, my home,
Right.
and everything I like into one illustration.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, in terms of like Honduras, I know you talked about how you're from Honduras originally, and I wanted to ask, like, what's the art scene like in Honduras, possibly?
It is. It is very fine art oriented. So painting, sculpture, modern art, um, but still though, like my not a lot of sequential art, not a lot of illustration is used in campaigns and advertising.
Hmm.
So it's I would like for it to be much more prevalent, and I know that the art scene there is pushing for it to be that way. um, but I when I lived in Honduras, I would go to galleries and museums all the time, and that's what I grew up with. So a more traditional art scene. It wasn't until I came to the United States that I got to see what a little bit more of what illustration, commercial art, mural painting looked like, more so than I did back home. Um, but it's also, I guess, the education is different there. There are schools for visual arts. There's academies, but definitely, I mean, I came to the United States to study art, and I've learned so much more than I probably would have on my own back home. But I guess it's just different, different cultures, different places. But I really enjoy trying to put both of them together, both influences together, of living here as an immigrant, and growing up in the United States in the last 10 years, and also from having grown up in Honduras for the previous 20. So, mm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so in terms of like the SCAD experience, so you've majored in illustration and you minored in graphic design. So tell us about like your whole SCAD experience or part of your SCAD experience, and what advice would you give for someone who wants to major in illustration and graphic design?
Yes. So my experience in SCAD was really amazing. I had a great time meeting people from all over the world and learning what illustration and commercial art can look like, and all the different directions that my work can go into.
Mm-hmm.
So I was part of the SCAD Illustration Club. I participated in a lot of cultural events at SCAD. Um, and I changed my major from double major in painting and illustration to illustration and minor in graphic design. So I wanted to learn a bit of everything, and I have yet to learn so much more than I want to do. But for someone wanting to major in illustration, I would definitely recommend getting those foundations down, working on your drawing skills, working on your painting skills, maybe trying to find a bit of a voice before diving into college.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I would have liked to have studied more traditional art before I went into college in a direction as as formal as illustration is.
Mm-hmm.
So personally, I would recommend doing that, and then knowing exactly where you want to go. Do you want to do picture books? Do you want to do editorial illustration, advertising? Um, all of this looks very different. So I think that once we have know a little bit more about ourselves, it'll be easier for us to find direction. Um, there's nothing wrong with finding yourself through your classes either. But I personally think it would have helped me have just a little bit more direction going into university. But it's an incredibly fulfilling program. I learned so much during my time at SCAD, and after, as I still live in Savannah, Georgia, and have enjoyed the benefits of being a SCAD alumni being here. But yeah, that's what I would recommend. Definitely exploring yourself a little more in your work, and then diving into what you want to do to take the most advantage of any program, not just illustration, that
Mm-hmm.
you want to go into.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely agree with that because that's the same thing I did. Like high school, I tried to get my footing of what type of art style I wanted to do, or how to make my own art style. So I do believe that it is very important to get your set footing of what you want to do before you jump into college and things like that. So So that way when you jump into college, you're still you still have a good idea, and you're still, you're not like switching up every time, because then if you switch up your major, that's more money you got to pay. So so
Yeah.
it's like how you said, it's just you got to figure that out ahead of time before you jump into art school.
Definitely. I mean, it took me 6 years to graduate. But I learned a lot. It was my journey. I appreciated it. It still took me probably another 4 years for me to realize, I love work for children. I consume it. I consume it in video games, in the movies I watch, and the comics I read, and the picture books I read. So I realized, like, why try to do everything when my focus is children's work. And since
Right.
my focus has shifted, I've enjoyed my work more. I mean, I know how I want to explore. I know how I want to experiment, and it's been very fulfilling. But the journey definitely does not end after college. It keeps going.
Yeah, absolutely. You never stop learning after college. So because you can learn but so much in college, especially when we went to SCAD, but you have certain things I've realized and I understood, like SCAD. I wish they could have taught more about the business end of it, how to run your own business and things like that. And I kind of want to get into that. So how important is it to have like your own art business?
So I have a more I guess I have a different experience than other people. A lot of artists have their shops online, their galleries, and their gallery work and whatnot. I wanted to keep my my career a bit more on the traditional side. So
Oh,
I have an agent for picture
mhm.
books, and through her I get work in picture books and other children-oriented projects. On my own, though, since I'm a digital artist, but I love traditional work, and I actually started as a traditional illustration artist. I do gallery work on my own. So I work with a few galleries like Gallery Nucleus and Giant Robot and Wow by Wow. And that is another source of income that I have. But passive income for me would be prints. And all of these are kind of easy for me to do because I can just throw work that I've already created for clients and for personal projects as prints. For but I do try to participate in conventions for artist alleys and mini zine conventions. And for those, I take pins, I take zines, and I take prints and other little stationery and whatnot. But I don't personally have a shop just because I want to try to focus more on a more traditional career
Mhm.
for myself, just because it's easier for me to do. I definitely admire people who do everything. They have a shop, they do conventions, they do gallery work, they do client work, they do personal projects. And I do want to eventually get there, but I do believe that it takes time and a lot of planning and organization. Not to mention people who also do scheduled Twitch sessions and commissions and whatnot. For
Right.
me, traditional, just client work, gallery work, and offering prints is what I do at this time, but I do want to branch out. So I would recommend people taking one step at a time. Make sure you have it down, you know what you have planned everything correctly, you have gotten used to doing these set of things that you do in your art business. And once you want to branch out, take your time. And the more people follow what you're doing and are already engaged in the other projects that you already do, they'll follow into the new ones that you keep
Right.
putting out.
Yeah, most definitely. I can agree with that. Like, yeah, take one step at a time, and figure out still where your lane is. So that's the entire thing with that. Now, I wanted to get into, like, you've done work for like newspapers and, like how you said you're doing work for children's books and things like that. So how does one look for like professional work or freelance type of work?
So the way I have done in the past has been through cold emails, cold submissions to children's magazines or to publishers who have open submissions from unagented authors at the time.
Mm,
Um, but in recent years, I've tried to focus a lot on my social media presence. I believe that a lot of the clients that have approached me has been because they found a piece of work that they enjoyed, that they thought would fit their current project at the time. So I do think social media helps a lot. I do have Instagram, Twitter, Behance, but I also am very proactive in keeping my website updated with everything that I'm doing. And I
mm,
also promote heavily everything that I do. But I do have an agent, and my agent helps me find work. I've only been with my current agent for about 2 years. So this is a very recent relationship. And I personally do find value in having an agent, but I also take on my own projects. And for those, it took time, it took experience for me to learn how I want to navigate client projects. But the way I would recommend new artists or recent grads to promote themselves is use social media,
mm.
use have a website, have a portfolio website. It can be an art station, it can be a free Google site, or it can be a more professional website, but a website where people can find potential clients can find your work. I think that's very important, and it'll maximize the amount of potential opportunities one can have. And on your own, I would say work on personal projects. Don't wait for that client to come. It has helped me to create work that I believe clients will need. So if you want to go into picture books, create picture book art. Don't wait for that client project to come in to create the portfolio work that you need to make. I am sometimes that's all you need. You
Right.
don't need to have had previous experience. Just put out the work that you want to be hired for,
Right.
and it'll happen sooner or later.
Yeah, absolutely. Most definitely. I could definitely agree with that. Now, in terms of like when you're working with different clients, what is like your whole take on pricing and like marketing?
Mhm. So for pricing, I do use the graphic artist handbook for it's a very long name, the ethical guidelines handbook.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, I do use that as a reference. I do find that some artists use hourly rates. So I have used that in the past, depending on the project that I'm working on. If it's graphic design or if it's concept art, I will use an hourly rate because
Mhm.
that's what the industry is used to. But when it comes to illustration work, I have prices that I rely on for editorial or for game art, for like board game art. And for picture books, though, that's a whole other beast, in my opinion, in my experience. So my agent tackles that for me. But when I take on projects myself, I figure out based on previous projects what I have charged before, what I'd like to earn. But I also use an hourly rate for reference. And once I put together contracts, if the client doesn't have one, I try to put in everything that they're getting. If they're getting license, a license for a certain amount of time. If I am I getting a product back or not? Um,
Mhm.
Pricing is so hard, but I think that by being more transparent, by looking at resources like Lightbox or the ethical guidelines handbook, or asking your peers. And it is so important to stay in touch with your classmates after school, with making friends in art communities, because sometimes the best person to ask is someone in your community, someone doing the same type of work that you are, and to let you know, no, you need to ask for more,
Right.
or no, I think that's fair. And especially in our industry, it's so hard to have the same prices across the board. So it's I tackle every project as its own, and I go from there. But I do have my own resources, and I do have a small community that I inquire with when I need to.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you definitely have to be around your peers to, get an understanding of how they do things, especially in a business sense, with pricing, understanding your value in terms of, just like understanding hourly rate. And especially with me, I'm still practicing with pricing and, trying to understand that. So, and I think that's something in art schools had to be taught, that has to be taught more because, so that way you kind of know what you're doing in the business aspect, is not just the art aspect, that has to be a focus. It's also the business part, and I think once we understand the business part, I think we'll be more confident in saying, okay, this is my business, this is how I'm a price stuff, this is my hourly rate and things like that, whether you're working for somebody or working being your own boss. So I think that's the entire thing with that. Now, as of recently, you did a collaboration with Adobe Creative Cloud. So talk about that whole experience and how important it is to collaborate with other people, other brands.
Hmm. So I first got my first opportunity with Adobe was through their community fund. I applied to participate and I was given my first opportunity to work with them. I created 3 illustrations with Adobe Fresco to promote the capabilities of this program. And I was mentored throughout the entire month-long project. Moving forward, another year later, I worked with Adobe and a collaboration with Adobe and American Red Cross. And I would not have gotten this opportunity if I had not been part of the Adobe Community Fund. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm very grateful for the opportunity to have worked with both teams and actually even a third team since the project had a video component. So it was about a 2-month long project and it was very interesting to be videotaped. Felt like something of celebrity, which was very weird and awkward. But I did my best. That's not something that happens every day, and
Mm-hmm.
I find that just through art we can help people be more aware of good projects and that are happening, and in ways that we can help each other and help others. Um, and just working through these brands, both companies, I was able to learn so much about blood donation, about the message itself, but also about working with big teams.
Mm-hmm.
I had never worked with a big team like this before, and I was one person that was an outsider
Mm-hmm.
coming in, and being the focus of the project was very interesting. I would love to work on projects like these again, and I find it a very valuable experience. And it's not every day that I've been able to work on projects that have so much impact and so much meaning. Um, and I do wish that brands and companies would try to reach out to artists, but not just individual artists, but communities to help build the projects and the messages that we need, that we all need to move forward together as a society. Um, it in this case, it was not a product that we were selling. We were selling, not selling, but promoting a message of donate blood, especially during this pandemic, during this time in which we need to help to move us forward through this terrible time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that they approached me for it. I felt like it was a monumental task for me to tackle. And I hope that I did my best through it. And I'm very proud of myself for trying. I would recommend artists that are approached for projects like this to do it, to not be scared, that everyone else's job is to keep everything under control and yours is to just put out a great piece of artwork. But yes, I would definitely love for more companies and more brands to actually interact with the communities that they're trying to help and to bring forward messages and projects that we actually need with our feedback, with our work, with our message, um, for them to be more successful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, most definitely. Now, is there any other brands that you would like to work with?
Hmm. At this time, the most recent project that I had was after the actually before this one was with Twitter. I created branding for the Latinx Heritage Month of 2021. And I would definitely love to create more work that celebrates Latin culture in the United States. It's very important to me as an immigrant. And I had participated before in another project that didn't end up coming through for a festival that also celebrated diverse voices. And moving forward, I would like to, any project with any company that is trying to promote diversity, that is trying to promote human rights and to defend and help people in need in this country, I would love to lend my work to help bring the message home, to help people. Some messages that are very important to me are like immigration, like Latin culture, like Spanish speaking people, and bringing forward books in Spanish, for example, since there are so few here and not every Spanish speaking immigrant speaks English. So that's something that I would love to do, is to create, to write, and hopefully get more books published in Spanish, and being part of the growing immigrant population in the United States. I would love to help us be more part of the American community, not a different community, but bring together, feel like home here, and hopefully help us all feel like we belong.
Mm-hmm. Now, I want to get into like within the evolution of art. What's your take on like the evolution of art, especially in illustration, and like where it's going?
Oh, that one's tough. It's hard for me to. I guess. I guess there's a lot of different trends happening all the time. I would say that for artists coming into at any point in time into the art scene, I guess it's not just about seeing what's trending, but bringing in your own voice into the stream of work that's being created every day. It's very easy to get overwhelmed and to try to be trendy as well, to have your work noticed. Sometimes it's easy to get caught up on what you think your work needs to look like. Also, digital work is very popular. It's very accessible in comparison to other types of work, so like traditional art. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I've read a lot that it's becoming overly saturated, but art can be made with anything. That's what I believe. I work both digitally and traditionally. Do I want to create traditional work for picture books one day? I do, but there's a big learning gap for me there, and I'm trying to break through it. But that's where I am, and I love seeing the different artists that I whose work I love. I love seeing their work evolve and be their own voice, and not actually follow trends, just evolve on its own. And the more I've focused on my own work and on myself, the better direction I think I have. But it is interesting to see that illustration is increasingly being used for all kinds of products and services and projects. But to come with that too, we also need to be compensated well for it. And we're not quite there yet. We're kind of far from there, but it is up to us to know our worth and to work towards making our industry better, to make our industry a career, a life, to sustain us. And that's I think the main focus that I've seen so far from a lot of artists that have been working for a while is we need to get paid fairly. We need our wages to go up. We need to charge more. And that's hard. And it's very hard, especially knowing how like my peers charge from Latin America, that it's hard to get those prices up. Dollars mean a lot to people in other countries. So it's a gap that's hard. It's hard to bridge, but the more communication we have, the more we interact, the more transparent we are, the more we talk with people in our communities in the United States and
Mhm.
outside of the United States, will we be able to build an industry that is fair to us all? Because we don't want to, we're all in this together. We need to lift each other up. And I
Right,
think I've seen a lot of that in recent years. I think social media has helped us communicate with each other more and be more
right.
transparent and know more about what's happening.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely agree because, even though art has evolved a lot, like there again, like how we was talking about earlier, like about the whole thing of pricing and, yeah, I think people still have to look at art as just as much of a business and just as much of a service because that's what
Mhm.
we're offering as artists, whether we're an illustrator, animator, or like we're in the beauty industry. Like for me, I'm a nail artist, so it's understanding like with any form of art, we're gonna charge what we're worth, and that's something that's very important. That's something that people have to understand. And art takes time. We use
Mhm.
materials, we use different mediums. Things take time, and you have to pay for the time. You have to pay for how much work we're putting into a work of art, and that's the thing with that.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So like what would you consider as like your favorite programs or mediums you like to work with when creating art?
For me, I've worked with several different programs, but I would say that most recently I've been working a lot with Procreate and Adobe Fresco, just because I've been trying to minimize the amount of tools and the expense of them in my career. So I've moved away from the big tablets, but and moved into an iPad, just small, versatile. I can take it anywhere with me. I can work from anywhere. And all the programs that I can use in it have been Procreate and Adobe Fresco. And they're
Mhm.
easy, they're small, they're not as expensive. At
Mhm.
least Procreate is a one-time fee, and Adobe Fresco is a recurring, but it's very cheap compared to. I have a whole Adobe Creative plan for the tablet, which is very cheap compared to full programs on computers. So, but I've also learned to use Affinity. I use Affinity Photo and Affinity Designer as well, which are full programs and are pretty big. I also use Affinity Publisher. So I have the whole line of Affinity products. But I know that a lot of artists work with Clip Studio Paint. I don't recommend a program by itself. I just look at what you want to use, try them all, learn how to use them all, see what you prefer. I wish I wanted to, if I wish I knew more about Clip Studio Paint, I would like to learn more how to use it
Mhm.
because I want to do comics in a more productive way. So that is on my list to learn how to use. But yeah, I'm open to learning more programs, and I do recommend everyone to do so, so that you can find that sweet spot. What program is best for you and your work?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'm the same way. I use Affinity Designer too. Yeah, I
Mm.
also use like Autodesk Sketchbook. So pretty much it's just only for like sketching what I want to design, what I want to illustrate. And those are like the programs I use. I'm trying to get back into Illustrator because I used it during my time in SCAD,
Mm.
but I kind of stopped using Illustrator for a while and I got into Affinity. So I'm trying to hop back into Adobe
Mhm.
Illustrator. So those are programs that I'm pretty much using. Well, Illustrator I'm trying to use, like I said before. But yeah, Affinity I use as well. So Affinity is a
Mhm.
pretty good program. It's a cheaper alternative to like Illustrator or Photoshop, because like with those Adobe programs, those cost like $200, $300, like per year. So, yeah, but that's the programs I use. I want to
Mhm.
get into like your process behind creating an illustration. So like I'm saying like in terms of like personal projects. So what is your whole process behind like creating an illustration? Like what is your whole process? Like do you start with thumbnails? Like what do you do?
Yes. I have it right here actually. I actually have I work a bit of I start traditionally. I thumbnail everything by hand. I actually have a little workbook, and where I have my notes and all the thumbnailing that I do.
Mm,
So I start by hand just because it's easier for me, and then I move on to what the projects should look like. So it's all like
mm,
not very soft thumbnails,
mm,
but this is what I carry with me everywhere I go. This is where all my projects are,
mm,
and some doodles too. But I work traditionally first to get my ideas down, to get my sketches down, and then I move on to digital. Once I'm working digitally, I create little sketches that are actually pretty close to the final drawing. I work in not so much as a grayscale, but I do put values into my sketches just so that the client, the art director, usually sees my intention, my concept, with
right.
each concept.
Mm,
And I usually send out three different ideas for every project at the very least,
mm,
just so that there's options. Usually, also because personally, I don't trust myself to this is the idea, and this is what I'm going to give them. I want to give variety because
mm,
I want them to know what idea will work with them best. But
mm,
also because in the past, when I've just sent very sketchy sketches, my art directors have not understood exactly what I
mm,
wanted to say. Difficulties happen on the final. So now, because of those past experience, I try for my sketches to be as clear as possible with values. Everything is visible and understood. And
mm,
then once I have my sketch approved, I move on to final, and I just draw everything. I don't usually make any changes on my concept from there. So the part that takes the longest for me is the line work. My work is very drawing heavy.
mm,
So that's where I just listen to music, watch a movie, and just draw until I'm done. Color, I try to go for soft watercolor washes, trying to imitate traditional media.
mm,
But since my personal perception of color is very intense, so I use very bright colors.
mm,
So they tend to look very unnatural. But I'm going for fun, bright, and exciting use of color, even if I'm using some soft textures of watercolor and whatnot. And then if changes are needed, I work on those. But then it's pretty straightforward after once I have my sketch cleared.
mm.
But yes, the idea process takes very long, and but it's the part where I try to push myself the most into working out of my comfort zone and trying new ideas and pushing my concepts further.
Right, right, most definitely. Now, how would you define success?
I would define success as being happy, whether you're creating commissions or you're just creating work for yourself and your home and your family and friends, whether it's a very intense professional career full of magical dream clients every day. I think that as long as someone is happy, as long as I am happy, I define that as success. Um, the more I have worked in the last couple of years, I've worked the most then in the last 5. And
Mm,
the thing I enjoy the most about these last couple of years has been to, of course, see my client projects come to life and to share
right.
them with people. But also, I've found the most joy creating when I'm alone and I have free time and I'm just painting and doodling in my sketchbook. Because at the end of the day, the reason why I came into this industry was because I wanted to be an artist.
Mm.
But I also want to pay my bills. So
Right.
so I definitely love this as a career, but
Mm,
the days that I am able to feel like an artist are my favorite. So for me, success is being able to do what I love every day, whether that's a client project or it's sketching in my sketchbook. That is success to me. And if I am ever unhappy in my career and in my work, then hopefully I'll find a way out of my little rut, or I'll look I'll look for joy elsewhere. But I would say success is not how much money you have, it's how happy you are. And it also takes work. It took me a long time to get to a place where I was happy with my work and where I was happy with my career.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it does take not being discouraged. It I mean it's hard to say, but I
Mm-hmm.
would say that as long as you're happy and this is what you want and you're willing to
Mm-hmm.
put forth the work that you need, um, then you'll get there.
Mm.
Rely on others. So find your community.
Right.
Your classmates are your friends or your peers or your coworkers. Stay in touch. You're not alone. We are a community of artists, and
Mm.
and we should grow together.
Right, absolutely. Now I want to jump into this next question because I think this is very, very important as a part of
Mm.
success and maintaining a work ethic. How important is mental health in the art community?
Oof, it's huge. I would say it's very important. I definitely started my years in college feeling very overwhelmed as being a self-taught artist in the midst of a lot of students who had previous art experience and art lessons,
Right.
and it was hard for me not to feel less of an artist than others.
Mm-hmm.
But then once I was out of school, not having a community felt quite lonely. So I immediately started looking for local art communities in Savannah, communities online, reaching out to classmates. And once I had a support group in a art community that I felt I belonged to,
Mm-hmm.
I felt it improved my sense of self-worth and as an artist. And the last couple of years where I've been the busiest have also been the hardest for me to keep myself healthy, keep myself from overworking. It's easy to stay home every day and just working nonstop until your hand breaks. I've in the last couple of years I've had to learn to take breaks, to
Mm-hmm.
sleep enough to take care of my body so that this career is long lasting
Right.
and not just and I realized that just what much of a difference does eating well, sleeping enough, and actually working out, exercising, it means to you, not only as a person but also as an artist and as a
Right.
professional.
Mm-hmm.
um, and that's something that comes with our career, especially because we are our boss. There's no
Right.
one else to tell us how long you should work, how when do you need to take a break. You're your own boss. We're our own accountant, we're our
All
own
right.
art director, we're our own assistant.
Right.
It and throughout these couple of years I'm still learning to
Mm-hmm.
take care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
um, but don't I would recommend not disregarding your mental or physical health. It goes hand in hand with you being able to push through projects, to push through your business, to being successful. It requires you to be happy and healthy, um, to get through to be on this journey.
Mm-hmm.
We want this to last. We want because we love it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also a job. At the end of the day, we are working, and work needs rest.
Mm-hmm.
um, so it's something that we should not, and I think that in our careers it's easy for us to just fall into that endless loop of work and not take care of ourselves, or always putting it at the end of the weekend, at the end of the month, at the end of the year. We can't do that. um,
Mm-hmm.
so I would recommend for anyone that's at home freelancing or working on their own business to take breaks, sleep enough, like treat it like a job. 40, 30, 40 hours a week. That's what you do. And the rest, you rest, you take care of yourself, you take care of your loved ones.
Right.
Um, and definitely build in those habits. It won't only make you more productive, more inspired, it'll make you happy. It'll feel like a life worth living. Um, you're not trying to reach an end goal of when I get published, when I have money, when I move to this location, I will be happy. No, don't wait. Be happy today. make yourself
Mhm.
happy today, and you'll always be a positive and ambitious person that's there for themselves. And on those goal points will come. Like, you will reach your goals, but it's better if you reach them healthy and happy than tired and overworked and potentially hating what you do and where you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also being burnt out too. And
Yes.
that's the thing. So, you want to take care of yourself and maintain your work ethic to get to those goals and stuff. And and
Mm-hmm.
and celebrate and be grateful of what you've accomplished, now, in the present moment. Another thing I've learned was focus on the moment at hand, you know, um, and until you get to that goal, and also too, it's, putting in the work, like how you said again, continuing creating art and continue to put yourself out there because it's not easy, it's hard,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just something that people have to understand. You're going to have to put in the work, but also take care of yourself and take it easy sometimes while you're putting in the work, so that you don't want to overwork yourself, and like how you said, like how we said, like,
Mm-hmm.
burn yourself out. So that's the thing.
Yes. And I do want to put it out there that injuring yourself is very easy. I've actually injured myself uh, in the last couple years, and it's taken a while for me to heal and recover.
Mhm.
And I'm not it you 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 don't want to hurt yourself.
Right.
So it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So
Yes.
yeah.
Like, with the turtle, slow and steady wins the race.
Mhm.
So that's the thing with that. But last but not least, where can people find you on social media and how can people support your work?
So I am at Cleonique on Twitter, Instagram, Behance. Cleonique.com is my website, but you can also support me on coffee.com, and you can be a member of my little channel. And I put forth behind the scenes sketches, blog posts, and hopefully more to come as well.
Mhm.
And if I'm ever in conventions, then come and say hi. I have stickers. And I'd love to chat with people and get to meet more artists, get to meet more people that hopefully like my work, and make more friends. And yeah, I'm trying to build my own little community more every day.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. Well, thank you so much, Clinique, for jumping onto the show. Your work is absolutely incredible. Like, your work is like so fun. And so, like how you said, childlike,
Thank
I love how
you.
colorful it is. Yeah, and I love like your spirit. You have a very, very bright, wonderful spirit. So I can definitely appreciate that. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your story. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
You are most welcome. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to click the bell for notifications. Also, follow me on my social media platforms and visit my website, asiaticbird.com, and be on the lookout for more interviews to come very soon. Take care and stay beautiful.